Hi, it's Paula from Pola Quilting. Welcome back to my channel. Fabric is expensive and we all are to certain extent hoarders, trying to keep every scrap. While I was sorting things after house move, I stumbled across this box of snowball corners. This came from various projects, so there's a good mix of colors here. I also got this baggie from somebody else who knows I like to work with the scraps. I was using 2.5-inch squares when I did initial snowballs, and this is the size of the corners. Triangles I have, more or less all of them the same size. They do slightly obviously different in size because I'm cutting them off with most of the times with the scissors, so they are not exact, but more or less that size. Sometimes ago I showed you how I use a glue to make those cushion covers, table toppers and an art piece. These are still holding strong and being used in my house. I also showed you in this tutorial how to make a folder cover using Mod Podge and all of those scraps of the fabric. Today I want to try something different and use the scraps in the future sewing projects, like a proper sewing. I have a ton of papers on the roll, so I will try to make a pattern using paper as a guide. Now, if you don't like to work with papers, you don't want to remove anything later, you can use very light interfacing or thin fabric and cut them to the strips to little over 2.5-inch strips. So when you are done, you will be able to trim it to nice 2.5-inch strip. My paper is about 3-inch wide, so I will make a mark showing where the 2.5-inch is. This ruler is 2.5 inches wide, so I'll just draw a lines on both sides. It will help later to make sure my scraps kind of cover that distance for me to trim it. Now, I like to work with about 2 yards of paper at a time, and I use those small wonder clips to roll it and hold it in place when I work with it. So I will show you whilst I'm sewing how it looks. So you have noticed maybe here that I have not kind of went from the edge to mark 2.5 inch, which you could also do. It's because I do not normally remove the paper or actually trim the strips until I'm ready to use it. It secures the edges and makes sure that they don't unravel. You know, every time you're handling fabric that the fraying happens, and it's the same thing here. If you cut those strips before you want to use them, they may start and kind of releasing the tension on the edges here. So basically I will sew in between those two lines, make sure that strip is covered, but I will leave it as is until I'm ready to use it, and then I will trim it to the 2.5 inch, so that will kind of take care of those edges. So first thing, let me just show you quickly. So this is how I'm holding my paper. So one clip holds the paper in the middle to not unravel more than I need, and one is at the end, so this sometimes kind of likes to flips over, but if I put that second clip there, it doesn't. So the first triangle, how I want to sew it, I just want to secure this edge here. So I just want to put it in place. This triangle is actually quite big, so it comes off from both of the 2.5 inch. I'm just securing it in place, nothing else. Now you do want to narrow stitch length here. I normally use about 1.8. The narrower the stitch, the easier later is to take off the paper. That's all. So you go with what you feel like is preferable for you, or if you're using a team fabric or interfacing, you obviously don't have to worry about it. So now I'm taking my second triangle and I will put it this way. So I want to kind of create that clean edge here later, and I want to stick out here about the quarter, so I don't want to use that tip later. However, don't worry if you do, I mean it will look great anyway. I will show you some examples later. And again I'm stitching. I'm using more or less 1/4 inch allowance. It's not precision work here. As far as you're stitching straight, you're good. So when I now open it, finger press, what I want to check is that that piece is covering my line here. And it does, I'm good to go. If it didn't, I would just take another triangle, stitch it here, open up, and I would have done it until it would have covered. But here I'm covered, I don't have a problem with it. Let me just take some out from the box so I see what I've got, because I want to make it scrappy, so I want to kind of mix the colors. But if you have one type of scraps, that will look awesome too, so just have a fun with it. And again, I want to make sure that the tip edge of that second triangle stick out a little bit from that main base triangle. I will open it up, finger press, nothing complicated here, remove any sticking out threads. Looks good. So next one, I want to take another triangle, which I will put on the top edge of those two. Again, you want to stitch more or less straight. If it's a little bit wonky, you can work with it too. I haven't lost that tip here, looks nice, but like I said, even if you lose it, don't worry, it's still gonna look great. I've got some red pieces here, so just remember to cover that side, and that your tip here needs to stick out from the under fabric about the 1/4 inch or whatever the seam allowance you're choosing to use for your stitching here. So it's good to kind of keep that edge here pin quite shortly, because as you can see there's going to be quite a lot of maneuvering right and left when you're doing it, so you don't want that roll here to disturb you. And then when you have enough of done on this side, you do the same thing, you will just roll it and pin it. Okay, so you can see here I went twice with the seam, because one I stitched too close. I wanted to kind of go over that edge here, but that stitch will just come off later, so I restitched it with that 1/4 inch more or less, and now this side is not enough to cover my paper here, the line. So what I will do, I will just take another piece of fabric here. It would have been good maybe to have the same color, but if it's different, that's fine too. Let's take this one. So I will put another one on top of it, and I just want to make sure that when I'm gonna start stitching, I will cover that paper. So actually I need to go from that edge here, because even here is not covering. But then on this side I don't need that much, so I'm just kind of going on diagonal here. Just lower it up, making sure that the corner is sticking out. Like I said, those triangles are not the same size, cut from different projects, and at the time I didn't think how I'm gonna use those, so I wasn't making sure that I cut the least possible. So that's one. So as you can see now, it's easily covering up the edge. Let's add the other side, maybe this one, flowery. So this flowery easily covered the edges. So now you can see I've got kind of two edges here. One is that original one I was working with here, and the second one between those two. But the triangle I want to add on top of it, I definitely want to go with the original one. So this is how it looks, and I'm not bothering myself with trimming anything. You can do if you want to, but by definition this is going to be like a paper piecing type of project, so there's going to be a lot of seams one on another, and machine can go through many layers, so I'm not worried about it. And here we go, this is how it looks. So if you have used the same fabric here, if you had scraps with the same fabric, you wouldn't even notice. I've chosen more or less the same color, but really you could choose any color there, and it will just add to the scrappiness of that project. So I will carry on to cover as much as I can of those strips. So I will take it the next step to the iron board and iron it with a little bit of starch. And like I said, I won't be trimming anything until I'm actually ready to use it in the project, because I don't know how long I want pieces. and all of those things, so I will just keep it in the roll until I'm ready to use it. Before I show you my finished project, just a quick reminder where you can find me and how you can support my work. You can subscribe to my website to be notified when new tutorials, products or patterns are released. You can find me on my Facebook page, Pola Photo, or you can join my group page, Pola Quilting with Friends, where we all share work made inspired by my tutorials and answer any questions you may have. There is Instagram account called Pola Quilting, and if you like to share something you made based on my tutorials, please tag me using hashtag Pola Quilting with Friends. To support my work, please like, comment and share when you see my posts or tutorials. Let your quilting friends know about this channel and invite them to the group and subscribe to my channel. If you like to contribute extra, you can use super thanks on YouTube or buying me virtual tea, coffee or lunch available on my page. All links are in the description below. I would like to thank you all for all the support so far and letting me grow in what I do. I have finished stitching my strips, and as you can see, what I've got in my box are quite a lot of neutral colors, so I really wanted to make them more scrappy than this, so I'll keep it for next project where I'm using perhaps snowballs, and I can add some colors, and then I will make another batch of my papers. And let me just show you quickly how they came out. Very nice and scrappy. And there's another strip I've made. I probably made about 4 yards of those tapes. Really like the effect. Now when I first turned it around on the back, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to take that paper off? But actually it wasn't that bad. And as mentioned, I'm not trying to remove every little bit of small piece, because once you wash your project, all of that will melt away. So as far as you're using quite narrow stitch length when you're sewing it, and I do use about 1/8, you can even go lower if you like, it's really not that difficult to remove it, as you can see. And they are smaller pieces, so they come out quite quickly. It is something you will do, in front of TV or when you don't have anything else to do, just to remove it. But I do remove paper when all of it would have been cut to the size, attached to something already, and then I will remove the paper, because I still want to make sure that all of those seams are not stretched when I'm sewing. As you saw, I did iron it with a little bit of starch, so they are nice and sturdy-ish, ready to be cut. But paper will come out when they've got something on both sides and the seams are kept in place. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and that gives you an idea how you can use up all of your small scraps. That's a second tutorial with the tape, and how else we can do the layouts on the tape to make it a little bit more interesting. And I will be designing some stuff with those tapes to make sure we can use them up as well. But if nothing else, you can use them as a great borders or sashing or things like that. That will make any project beautiful. Thank you for joining, thank you for watching, and see you next time.